Alright, time for another DraftPhysics.com video presentation. Unfortunately, the comments have degraded. And it's not so much the trolls, it's actually physicist Michael, okay, who's just throwing shit. I mean, that's all he's got left. That's his little monkey throwing poo. Doesn't have an argument to make, and so just makes a bunch of ad hominem accusations that have nothing to do with any reality at all. So in context, let's understand I've offered to pay him to play a 5-minute video and explain where I made a mistake in the video, explaining what gravity is. Alright, and he won't do that. He won't tell me how much I'd have to pay him. I mean, it's a simple enough question. If it's such a horror, it's so inconvenient, I'll pay you to do it. So just name your price. Okay, I'm sure my viewers will pay because they'd be very interested to see what your counter argument actually is. What you actually can defend as an argument. Again, do you think it makes sense to drop round things into clay, that is, dent clay, not penetrate it deeply, just dent it, with round objects to decide how much energy the object has? Do you think that's good physics? Could you answer the question? No, you won't answer the question. So I guess I have to type the questions, which is incredibly annoying, but whatever. We'll try that. If he, like I said, the grade in his approach is so bad that I don't see what the point would be, because I don't think he's going to interact in any kind of civil way. This is just so bad. All right. So anyway, so the other two are they're still arguing semantics. They're saying you can't figure out 9.8 meters per second any other way than understanding it as per second per second. So you can't just say, yes, it's 9.8 per every single second, and then just calculate how many seconds it falls. And if you know, frankly, because it just is a known fact, that the distance you'll travel being accelerated by a force will be half of the velocity the force actually gives you. So you do acquire the acceleration unevenly. So you don't acquire 9.8 in an instant. You have to build up to it. And so it takes time to get up to the distance that 9.8 would mean. So you're only halfway there because it takes time to accelerate. So by simply knowing those things, you could always calculate the distance. You can calculate all this stuff. And you don't ever have to square anything. And for them not to even concede that there's all kinds of ways you can formulate a relationship that exists in nature. And you can do equations in different ways from different approaches. And it's like they're forgetting that's a basic rule of science. And they're just pretending it doesn't exist in this case. And that, no, you can only do it their way. There's no other way to understand. And it's just so anti-science. I mean, they're just demonstrating how much they hate real science, because real science is about those kind of principles, that there's all kinds of angles you can attack a problem from. I mean, that's just a real basic scientific rule, that you just, you look at something and you turn it around, and you can look at it from different angles and realize there's different relationships that you can take advantage of to measure the volume of an elephant. There's different approaches you could take to find the answer. All right, so anyway, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, I'll just DraftScience, amazing, whatever the amazing part is. You're just not interested in doing the math. I'm not interested in doing your math. I'm not interested in whatever a square second is. I'm telling you quite overtly, it's nonsense. There's no such thing as a square second, just as there's no such thing as a square pound. It's nonsense. And that clearly, right in the observation of gravity, you can see what the squared thing is. It's the distance. The distance is the squared component. The distance is the thing exponentially increasing. Counter argument? Oh, that's right, there isn't one. When you're given the opportunity to demonstrate your claim. I've already demonstrated. Okay, I mean, I've demonstrated with clear examples. So something's flying by gravity. It's a fixed distance it's going to travel. Distance isn't going to have anything to do with the answer. You want to know how much gravity it is, you're not going to be able to use the distance to tell you. You're going to have to know what its velocity is, because the amount of time it's in the gravity is going to decide how much it's bent. That's the truth. It's completely a time-dependent force. Your counter-argument? No, nothing. 9.8 meters per 1 second. Proven fact. 2 seconds, you're going 19.6. I mean, it's obvious. There's no squared function. 2 units of gravity, 2 units of force, 2 units of velocity, 2 units of weight, 2 units of time. Answer? Nah, nothing. All right. But you're totally able to, I'm sure. Doesn't matter. You already told me I had to come up with some other way, and I explained another way of doing the calculation based on Galileo's observation that it's 1, 3, 5, 7. That's a huge advantage in terms of being able to understand that the two pieces are the same, and in terms of how much you're going to gain, and one of them is a much bigger distance than the other distance, but it's exactly the same acceleration, or created in those two different amounts of distance and time. Not time, distance. Okay, this is why, I mean, if you measure it by time and give the same amount of time, then you'll get a difference in the distance, and I'll tell you the extra velocity. And if you measure the distance, you'll have a difference in time that'll tell you the velocity. All right. This is why no one should take you seriously. So again, you haven't taken any of the arguments I've made seriously. You haven't responded in any way to anything I have said yet. Every response has been non-responsive mush. I ask a simple question. If I shoot 1,000 atoms out one side of my ship at 1 mile an hour, and I shoot one atom going 1,000 miles out the other side, what happens to the spaceship? Will you answer the question in a direct manner without resorting to some relativity argument? I mean, it's just such insanity coming out of your mouth. So I'm just saying, this is your reputation you're playing with. You have a much bigger future than I do, frankly, and in my opinion, you're stepping all over your future. Because, frankly, these are not counter-arguments you're making. You're not responding to anything stated. You're not defeating anything stated. You're just ignoring it and pretending that if you keep saying per second over and over again, everybody will believe. Squared weight. Yeah. Your methods are the same as any science denier, flat earther. So go ahead, prove that. You make lots of accusations. We don't prove that one. I don't know of any flat earther on the internet that's offering to pay people, to write blank checks almost, to have them refute their videos, to have them debunk them, to have them make a counter argument. A publicly accountable public argument explaining where the error is in the logic presented. Amazing. Anyway, young Earth creationist. Right, again, so I'll just go back to, you don't even know who Leibniz is. I mean, he was the definition of a young Earth creationist. The guy who invented this with absolutely no evidence. And then de Chardin was almost thrown into the same category. She was a free willer. She was a hoper, a wisher. Okay, and so your connection to theology and dogma is very clear. You say, oh yeah, we've already done these experiments. We already did. Yeah, there's all kinds of evidence of God. Yeah, there's lots of Jesus's footprints. Yeah. We got fossils of Jesus. Yeah. We got. It's just a bunch of talk. You don't have anything. Okay, so I mean, just amazing crap. I'm not saying you believe these things. Well, what's the difference? So Professor Lewin did this, right? When somebody made a rational counter-argument to his two voltages in the same place theory, okay, and it's merely pointed out, well, look, you're using an inductor, okay, and your probe wires are inductables, okay? So if you put them in an inductive field, they're going to induce a voltage of their own. So your probe wires are automatically corrupt. They can't probe an inductive field. They can't do it. They can't go through the field and get a reading without distorting the field. The field itself gets distorted, and of course the probes themselves are substantially distorted. Now, a simple, basic, reasonable argument. And what did Professor Lewin do? He called the guy who has a master's in electronics a flat earther. So, I mean, you're doing the cliche, dogmatic, arrogant asshole game. All right, but your methods are incredibly similar. And the method is what? What's the method? Flat earthers present absolute rubbish as arguments. I mean, absolute garbage. Silly, distorted photos. I mean, it's all kind of Sasquatch stuff. Easily debunked. Well, why don't you debunk mine? I've put all the Sasquatch pictures in little 5-minute videos for you. So go ahead and debunk the Sasquatch pictures that are in those videos, the arguments in those videos. Go ahead, debunk them. Explain how it is a good idea. If you want to know how much energy something has, take round things and dent clay with it. And that'll tell you how much energy it has. Because, yes, the the round surface is a very good way to evenly apply energy. Go ahead, make the argument. Defend the Chatelet experiment. Is that too much of a challenge for you? I mean, I made so many direct challenges, and you have argued none of them. Not a single fucking one. All right. Let's see. Deny or ignore any evidence. So again, what evidence? You have denied and ignored. I showed you the Newton's cradle with the 3 to 1 mass ratio. Did you show me how? Oh yeah, see, it's free momentum. Did you show me that? No. Have you shown me any Newton's cradle that creates free momentum? No. Have you shown me anything that's going, that makes anything where you've had to apply 3 times the force to make it go, 9 times the force to make it go 3 times as fast, or anything that was going 3 times faster doing 9 times the damage? Have you shown me anything like that? Anything close? No. I mean, this is amazing crap coming from a theory that you've had 350 years to shore up, and you can't present anything. All right, that's presented to you that challenges your ideas. So again, and the ones that challenge yours, the fact that you don't have any videotape of it taking 9 times more fuel to go 3 times as fast. I mean, shit. Somebody should have videotaped that, because everybody should be made aware of this insane way to lose money fast. All right, change the topic. I mean, amazing. I've been talking the same things for 2 solid years. I've been repeating this stuff ad nauseum. What topic am I changing, for fuck's sake? Amazing accusations. These are so fucking goddamn silly. So you're going to stand by that accusation that I've changed the topic somewhere? I mean, I couldn't be more explicit. I sit there and made a kinetic energy thing, and I said, here's the individual arguments that prove kinetic energy to be nonsense. We could talk about the history. We could talk about the experiments. We can talk about gravity. All those things, they're all there. And you won't talk about any of them. And I'm changing the subject? No, you're ignoring the subject. Anyway, to unrelated claims, such as talking about gravitational lensing. These are interesting subjects, but you want to give me the example where I did that? All I pointed out was to just demonstrate how your science doesn't demonstrate or prove anything. It doesn't do anything based on experimental evidence, any substantial evidence. It just jumps to conclusions. And I just use as an example the Eddington experiment, which is a huge conclusion drawn. Yes, it's proven. And it wasn't very good proof, was it? Will you even admit? I mean, even though the guy Eddington said right in his own journal, I wouldn't stake my life on these results. Even though he explains in his own journal that his data is actually only 10% of what he was hoping for. 10%. His data was so degraded, it was only 10% of what he was hoping for. Instead of 10,000 stars, he got 1,000 stars. Huge degrade. You say, oh, it's a great experiment. Everybody should just believe it. We don't have to redo it, especially from space with 400 times resolution. Yeah, I think it's a good argument. And what's your response to it? Absolutely nothing. You won't concede any of the true facts, and you won't concede till they point to pretty bad science. It's pretty bad science when you don't shore up that experiment by doing it when you have 400 times better resolution from space, 400 times better opportunity, a 400 times better camera, and you're telling me you're not going to take the picture. You don't need to take the picture. Too ridiculous. All right, and photons, when we're talking about the basics of acceleration, again, and how is there any evidence that I have drifted very far off the subject? Where is this a huge problem? These are all indications of really bad science. The fact is, the wave particle thing is a big farce. It's clearly not waves. It's clearly clumps hitting a surface, frankly, interacting with electrons. And it's clear it's happening at surfaces. Those are real arguments. You did a video on photons. I responded to it. How is that off the subject? Did you respond to anything I said? No. Amazing. Failed to distinguish between claims and actual evidence. So again, you don't have any actual evidence. It's just an amazing absence of real hard, good evidence. And so he's going to just keep claiming it's really good evidence because he did an experiment with crappy little, jinkety, rinkety, dinky springs, and therefore he has proven it for all time that you can make free momentum. Amazing bullshit. Believe that your lack of understanding of the topic is evidence against that topic. So again, he keeps claiming there's a lack of understanding when no, what's clear is there's a lack of courage. You are a coward, okay? A pathetic, weak coward. You're arguing from a weak position and you're running away as fast as you can. All right? You haven't answered a single one of my questions with anything called straight talk or an honest answer. Every one is contrived gobbledygook, okay, to evade the subject. All right, use sloppy language. Well, that's where you're all over the place. Difference between velocity in meters seconds, whatever. And there's nothing, any crime I have committed through expedience against precision. I could just keep pointing to you being so dishonest that you won't put the 9.8 meters per 1 second. It's not 2 seconds, it's not a half second, it's not a quarter second, it's explicitly only a 1 second. It's not 9.8 unless you put a 1 there. That's the absolute truth, and you will counter it with nothing. You can't counter it because it is the absolute truth. The true rate of acceleration is 9.8 meters to 1 second. And you're just a liar, okay, to sit there and pretend something else is true. That the 9.8 is still valid if you put some other number besides a 1 there. That the fraction still means something without that 1 there. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. All right, and then claim that you're being persecuted. Well, it's kind of obvious that there's lots of people doing shenanigans and doing other things incited by people like you who seem to think no one needs to take anything seriously and we can all just live in our delusions and we don't have to answer any questions. The hostility is quite obvious, and I could go through all the ways they've invaded my privacy, you motherfucker, and I'll just wish you the same. Okay, I hope you get what you deserve. All right? So I hope you get to feel the wrath of the imbeciles attacking. All right, when people see the downside is the people on my side aren't going to be the imbeciles. They're really not going to resort to sabotage and personal attacks. They're not going to swat you. All right. When people point out your flawed method, so again, my method is to make an argument and plead with you to grow enough ball, okay? Because you obviously have none yet, so maybe you could get 1 ball or a half a ball and actually make a real response. Actually stay on this fucking subject. Is it 9.8 meters to 1 or not? Is that what Newton thought the truth was? Okay, is that Newton's formula, 9.8 to 1? I mean, you're just this is so fucking goddamn pathetic. I provide data, so we've been over this crap before. You provide nothing. Nothing new. Brozo has provided data, okay? Professor Lewin provided data. All right, and I pointed out how his experiment was obviously a cheat and a flaw and a fake. All right, and again, what's your claim? Your claim is that momentum doesn't have to be conserved and that you can make free momentum. I'm arguing that that is just absolute nonsense. There's no way you can defend that position because it's free momentum, and free momentum is free energy. It's right back to the 300-year-old argument. See, you're so ignorant on this subject, you don't realize that they had this argument 350 years ago. 350 years ago, the Newtonians told the Leibnizians, yours is a free energy formula. And because the Leibnizians were complete, obnoxious, arrogant morons, all they did was say, yours is. It's just pathetic. All right, let's see. I provide data that you can use to measure G. And I explained how I can measure G, okay, just by understanding Galilean principles of 1, 3, 5, 7. All right, and you can't do it. Well, why are you saying I can't do it? I did it. What exactly do you want me to do? Do you want the whole construction of the exact formula? I mean, you can't figure out for yourself that if I already know, all right, that the two different distances are going to acquire exactly the same acceleration, that I can't figure that out if I know the two velocities? I mean, see, this is your dishonesty. You know enough about math to know there's different ways you could get to this solution, and you're just playing an idiot game now, pretending you don't know that fact, that there's different equational directions you can attack a problem from. Oh, amazing. And ignore my method that demonstrates the units of meters per second squared. So again, it doesn't demonstrate any such thing as a meter per second squared. It doesn't show what a per second squared is, and it doesn't show how it's a real thing. And it certainly doesn't show how, well, it's meters per 1 second. See, when you say meters per second, you really are saying 1 meter per 1 second, right? Until you put numbers there, what else is there? So we already know it's 9.8 meters. And we know if I say 9.8, I have to say 1 in front of that S. That's a given. So you're stuck. 1 squared is 1. Game over. You lose. I've done similar things for multiple topics, and your responses has been the same denial. So again, what's similar things for any other subject? It's just a pile of crap. You just made that shit up. You have evaded every single question I have asked you. What the hell happens when you shoot 1,000 jelly beans out one side of your ship going 1,000 miles, 1 mile an hour, and one jelly bean going 1,000 miles an hour? What happens to your spaceship? Oh, it's the same exact momentum, but now it's a huge difference in the joules of energy. So what happens to the spaceship? Well, yes, the answer is absolutely nothing. That's what fucking goddamn happens, because kinetic energy is nothing. It can't move matter in space. The game should be right over right now. That should be the end of the conversation for rational people. But you have evaded the subject entirely. You have pretended it's something about relativity, that something about the speed of light has something to do with jelly beans going 1,000 miles an hour, which is just a pile of crap. Evasion, evasion, evasion. All right. I've done similar things for multiple topics, and your response has been the same denial. So just a lie. And then you demand, again, there was absolutely no response. I responded to his photon argument and explained how photons really work, and even predicted that he was misreading the slide he was looking at, because it really wasn't the distance between the slits. It was the total distance, the outside distance between the surfaces. It was the total distance of the entire experiment. And he hasn't conceded that's correct, but that is in fact correct. The distance on the slide is actually the distance between the outside surfaces. And then you demand that I go through your ridiculous videos. So again, I'd say yours are just full of fluff and nonsense, and it's child abuse, frankly, for you to pretend to be a teacher when you don't have any integrity and you won't defend your religion, okay, with anything called even a good argument. All right, and point out the errors. 5-minute video, and I'll pay you to do it. And you're so much of a coward that you won't take my money to do it, to prove that you're so much smarter than me, that you have so many righter answers than me. Well, why don't you prove it? Why don't you show your expertise and the strength of your argument by demonstrating that I'm wrong to say it's 9.8 meters per 1 second, what it is, and that I'm wrong to say momentum turns things in space, not kinetic energy. That I'm wrong when I say when they landed the lunar module on the moon, kinetic energy wasn't anything they were worried about. When there is not even any data taken to support your claim. So again, it's just a lie. I've done experiments, and besides that, I've referenced other experiments. Again, the Mythbusters crashed cars into a brick wall. Okay, didn't come out kinetic energy way. All right, it's just the claims, not data. So again, more lies. Okay, there's plenty of data, and there's data in the sense that when there's missing data. Okay, when somebody asks you, well, you claim it takes 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast, so why don't you show me? Why don't you show me the 8-pound bowling ball going twice as fast, knocking down more bowling pins? The absence of evidence is evidence. When you can't do anything to create any alibi at all, okay, then you're going to look guilty. But your defense against the data I provided is in half a dozen experiments. So what, I don't know, half a dozen? There's 2 big ones where, I point out how you made twice as much momentum out of the same spring compression. And I claim that's a violation of conservation of momentum, okay? But beyond that statement, yeah, what is there? Until somebody else does the experiment, gets a different answer, right? So we have to wait for that. Any data taken to support your claim. So again, I've done the pendulum experiment with the lever. Where is your lever experiment, by the way? It's only been 2 months. I mean, in 2 months, you can't show us anything that's connected to what I described. I mean, so far you've done things with springs and bullshit, okay? So, but yeah, have you done any of the experiment I described? No. It's just the claims, no data. So again, that's just a lie. There's plenty of data, okay, in the sense that there are videos of the, connected oscillator, where clearly the 2 masses are not moving with the, kinetic energy theory in control. They're moving with momentum in control. The momentum is being conserved. The kinetic energy is not. One side has got twice as much kinetic energy as the other side because your theory is crap. All right, but your defense against the data I've provided in half a dozen experiments is to put your fingers in your ears. And again, your defense is to evade every simple question I have asked in any one of these videos. You have ignored every single one of them, okay, and refused to give anything called a straight answer to any simple question. And have a temper tantrum. And the temper tantrum is what? Me rejecting your glib and unevidenced accusation that somehow I haven't done my research, that somehow I don't understand something, because I tell you plainly I don't understand a square second. It's conceptually nonsense, like a square pound. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know why anyone would believe there's such a thing as a square second. All right. Now he's going to talk about the Eddington experiment. I mean, and just lie. Now he's going to lie. For the Eddington experiment, you asked for satellite mission. When did I say satellite mission? So that's a lie. I said from space. You can do it inside the space shuttle. I even suggested inside the space shuttle. I suggested these things. The International Space Station. I've suggested all these things. So it's just an overt lie. I didn't say satellite mission. I said anything. I even brought up Hubble telescope and the one lame excuse that, Hubble can't look at things that are too bright or its eyeball burns out. All the bullshit excuses. So again, just a lie. You're just lying here, right? This isn't a misparaphrase. This is just a lie. You asked for a satellite mission? It doesn't have to be a satellite mission. What, you think they're going to build a satellite and put a GoPro in it to spend 5 minutes looking outside the corona of the sun? We have to make a special satellite to do that? The CIA right now has all kinds of fucking high-resolution cameras with gigantic lenses on them. What the hell are you talking about? And NASA controls those satellites. I'm sure NASA gets some time on those satellites. You're going to claim to me that we don't have satellites with great cameras on them in space already? This is the evasion. This is every single point I make. He just evades the subject and does this crap. All right, I provide a reference to the Hippocampus mission. Again, it's not outside the corona of the sun. I mean, how many fucking times does that have to be said to you? There's absolutely no point in shooting any energy through the dirty atmosphere. You don't understand what scatter is? I mean, you can look up in the sky in the middle of the day and you can see it all around you. You can see that light somehow is bouncing off pieces of atmosphere and hitting you right in the face. It's all over the place. The light's coming from everywhere. All right? Because of scatter. Scatter means that the shortest route will get light, the longest route will get right. Every single source, every single receiving location will say, look, the light bent to me. Look, the light bent to me. Look, the light bent to me. No matter where I go, I'm going to say, the light bent right to me. I mean, it's just silly. Which did observe over 100,000 stars. So again, it didn't observe any stars. It's just more horse shit. All right, and again, that's not the Eddington experiment. It's not even close to the Eddington experiment. The whole point of the Eddington experiment, all right, is to observe the star in the gravitational field of the sun, okay, without being inside the corona of the sun. So anyway, in the visible spectrum, and was significant and specifically designed to measure their positions extremely accurately, as the satellite orbits the sun, the line of sight to the stars would get closer and further from the sun. Okay, that I'll agree with. Providing a perfect test for gravitational lensing for many thousands of stars. So again, I'll go look it up, but I've already looked it up in the past. Okay, and it's not what they say it is. All right, and ended up matching the predictions of GR extremely tight limits. So we'll see. Okay, but bullshit. I'll say on its surface, and it's still not optical pictures of suns bent. All right, but anyway, exactly what you asked for. And your response is, no, it's not a good experiment. I'm saying it's certainly not what Eddington did, okay? So it's a simple experiment, and you're evading explaining why they don't do the simple version. One star, one sun, see if you can watch it get bent. Not complicated at all. And you're giving me some example of something that did 100,000 stars, some survey satellite. No sale. Just throwing the idea out there because it doesn't match your narrative. So you're not throwing anything out there because you're not even using, again, suns where you know the light from that sun, where it's coming from. So again, you select the suns based on, there's criteria for selecting which sun you're going to bend because you want it not to be too far away and all of those other important details. Again, this is why no one should take you seriously. So again, the Eddington experiment is the Hippocampus experiment. That's his argument. Same experiment. It's not the same experiment. I'm sure I can detail how it's not the same experiment. So again, it's just more crap, okay, where you ask a simple question, you get a bullshit answer. He thinks it's good science, okay, to have an Eddington experiment that's never successfully redone, okay, outside the margin of error, and that's good science. It's just to give up and quit. Even though you have 400 times better resolution from space, and you do the experiment with very meager technology, and do it better, do it many dozens of times better with much less technology, and even though we have much better technology. So it's just a big dodge, a big evasion of the subject, which is it's not good science. All right. So, but yes, there are videos in the past where I've already done the hippocampus mission. Already done it. Hippocara, blah, 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 whatever it is. Yeah. So, yeah, so I'll be back with that in the future, just to point out how it's an evasion of the subject. The great thing about the Eddington experiment is it's decisive and clear if done right. I mean, because you'll actually see the sun move. You'll see it. There'll be a time lapse, and you'll see it move in ways that it can't be physically moving. You actually see it go backwards and forwards, you know, if done right. But we're not allowed to see that proof because they don't think it's important to do, even though it only takes 5 minutes to do. Fact. 5 minutes. Maybe 7. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's enough of that. Just terrible. So I'm, you know, I just have to keep pointing out that this physicist is running from the arguments. I couldn't make them shorter. I really can't make them any shorter. 5-minute chunks. I'm just asking you to, in some way, point out where something is egregiously wrong in the statements made in those videos, especially the gravity relevant videos, the ones in space. You know. Anyway, okay, enough of a video. Very disappointing. I mean, that's all you can say, right? So remember the AB science guy? He said, when I asked him the thrust argument, right? He says something like, thrust isn't energy. Some sort of bullshit argument to evade the simple truth that kinetic energy doesn't work in space. It doesn't work in the cleanest environment you can create. It fails dismally to be able to move anything. They'll say it has 2,000 joules, but they won't be able to show that it has 2,000 joules because it won't be able to do 2,000 joules worth of work. It can't do anything because it's not real. The only thing that's real is the momentum. The universe runs on momentum, mass and velocity. That's all you need. That's all Galileo understood. That's all Descartes understood. And that's all Newton understood. And they all got a lot of right answers. And it was for that very reason. So disappointing. Shameful, really. It's shameful what the lack of integrity scientists show. The inability for anyone to challenge their dogma without being silenced and blocked. Again, every single physics forum where you bring this subject up, they will cancel you. Okay? You cannot argue proof of kinetic energy because they know they don't have any. It's that simple. They know they don't have any, so all they have is their equations and their math. But they'll never show you any evidence. Alright, so till the next time and such. And so forth and whatnot. Shit.